Marcus Moser, to talk about week 13 around the NFL. This is the Stacking the Box No Huddle show for all of your football news, takes, opinions. We got them right here for you. Marcus, week 13 around the NFL. Your Dallas Cowboys beat the Kansas City Chiefs on Thanksgiving. We had the crowded Thanksgiving Black Friday day slate. What do you make of week 13 overall?
First of all, that Thursday slate was one of the best I think we've ever had for a Thanksgiving schedule. That Packer-Lion game, very entertaining. Green Bay ultimately got the win. And then maybe the best game of the weekend featured the Cowboys and the Chiefs. It came right down to the final drive. And then we got a massive upset later on in the day with the Bengals taking down the Ravens. So, yeah, what a fun week. Now, Sunday wasn't quite as exciting. We had some pretty awful football all day long. But yeah, it's a great week. And now we turn our attention to December football. This is when it starts to get real. This is when the playoff pushes happen. And we've got some awesome games coming up that are going to decide which teams are in the postseason and which teams are going to be looking at maybe a top 12, top 14 draft pick.
And for you, Marcus, what could be better than enjoying Thanksgiving food and a big Cowboys victory over maybe the best team in the AFC? Like, they're still up there despite their 6-6 record. We're going to talk about teams in the playoff hunt right now. Will the Lions miss the playoffs? Are the Cowboys a sleeper team? And can Drake Maye reach the Super Bowl in his second NFL season? Marcus, let's start with this. The playoff picture right now. We can kind of go through conference if you want to right now. Let's start with the AFC here. The New England Patriots lead the conference at 11-2. Who thought we would be saying that after what we saw from them last year? What a difference a second-year quarterback and a new head coach make. Denver Broncos at number 2 right now. Jacksonville sitting as a 3rd seed. The 6-6 Baltimore Ravens at number 4 in the AFC. And the 3 wildcard teams right now would be the LA Chargers, the Colts, and the Buffalo Bills, meaning the Houston Texans, the Steelers, and the Kansas City Chiefs at 10 seed, Marcus. Those are the 3 teams on the outside looking in right now.
Yeah, let's start with the Patriots. We'll get to whether or not we think they can be a Super Bowl contender later in the show. But I was actually watching one of the shows that we did back in June when we were doing some of the win total stuff. And it's not that surprising because we said back then, this is the easiest schedule in the NFL. They don't even have to be a good team, and they're going to sleepwalk to 10-7. And now that they are a good team, I think Drake Maye is taking that step. It's hard to see them not getting Tommy to like 13 wins. And when you're the 1 seed in a conference, all you have to do is win 2 home games in order to get to the Super Bowl. So we'll talk about their viability in a second, but it does seem like I thought I had a pretty good picture as to what the AFC playoffs were going to look like 2 weeks ago. But with the Jaguars continuing to win, the Colts falling off a little bit, suddenly Jacksonville has, leapfrogged them. The Chiefs continue to fall. This AFC is really messy right now, which is a lot of fun.
Man, it makes it interesting, doesn't it? Because if I would have asked you before the season, what do you think the chances are that the Patriots, Broncos, and Jaguars would be the top 3 seeds in the entire conference? And then you have Buffalo at number 7, the Chiefs at number 10, the Bengals at 12. Like, this is just, it's a wild scenario right now. And obviously a lot can change down the stretch of the season. We got a lot of teams that are knotted like at that 8-4 record. So I would expect some flip-flopping to happen. But you talked about the Patriots, 11-2. What more could you ask for from this team? Now, you could say, yes, they beat up on an easy schedule. That is true. But they're doing exactly what you would expect a good team to do against a bad schedule. They're plus 110 in point differential. Drake Maye is driving the football down the field. He's the most efficient quarterback in the NFL this year. I mean, he's thoroughly in the MVP discussion still, I think, too, especially considering Matt Stafford just lost to the Carolina Panthers this week. I would expect them to, based on what they've got going the rest of the way here, to probably finish as that number 1 seed.
Well, let's go ahead and do the Patriots now, since they are one of the more fascinating teams in the league. Let's talk about their 2 losses this year. Week 1 against the Raiders. We know every year how fluky week 1 is, and there's always some of these games that teams have no business losing or winning, and it ultimately happens. That's one of their losses. And the other one was a game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, your Steelers, where they had 5 turnovers, 2 of which happened at the 1-yard line as they were walking in for touchdowns. I mean, I don't want to say they could be 13-0 right now because they've also won some close games, but this is how you take care of business when you have a bad schedule. You beat the teams that you're supposed to beat. You have a couple upsets mixed in, like they did against Buffalo, and now they're right back into being a contending team. What stinks, Tommy, is the Patriots have had this 20-year run of being a Super Bowl contender. They have not had to sit around and wait and watch bad teams long enough for them to do this. That's not fair. I'm just very
It's
jealous.
not fair. It's not fair. They lucked into this situation, and we've had this conversation before. It's like sometimes it feels more beneficial, though nobody wants to bite the bullet and have that down season. When you do sometimes, I mean, the chips just fell into their lap to draft Drake Maye and then to start the whole process over again. And what do you know? They're right back on top of the conference. If not for that loss against the Steelers, Marcus, which Pittsburgh won by one score in a game they created 5 takeaways. If not for that, the Patriots would be on a 12-game winning streak. They're currently on a 10-game winning streak. So not a team hotter, I would say, in the NFL than the Patriots right now, albeit against an easy schedule. Let's talk about the NFC standings here. We'll break it down. The Chicago Bears, 9-3. Again, this is what makes the NFL so great is, yes, we thought the Bears would see progress. We didn't think it would happen this early. They've beaten good teams now. They're in the best division in football, in my opinion. So the fact that they are sitting atop a crowded and really good NFC conference is remarkable. So it's the Bears at number 1, the Rams at 2, the Eagles at 3, Buccaneers at 4 with just a 7-5 record. But then look, Marcus, you've got the Seattle Seahawks at 9-3, sit at the 5 seed. Green Bay Packers 8-3-1 at 6. San Francisco 49ers at 9-4. And there are other teams in the hunt. This does not even include the Detroit Lions, who are currently outside looking in, and your Dallas Cowboys, who maybe are the hottest team in the NFL in recent weeks. I mean, their offense is certainly lethal.
My favorite part of this is that we're going into week 14 and the number 1 seed in the NFC has 9 wins, which is fairly common. That's about the number that you have at this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also funny that the 7th seed in the NFC has 9 wins, which just shows you how logjam this conference is right now. I don't know if we have a prohibitive favorite. I would probably take the Rams as the favorite right now. But 1 through 7, this is about as deep as a conference as I've ever seen. Where, Tommy, would it shock you if the 6th or the 7th seed won the Super Bowl this year? Absolutely not. And that's not because the 1 and 2 seeds are weak. It's because the 5, 6, and 7s are as strong as we've ever seen before.
Yeah, my sleeper for a little while now has been the Seahawks. I love their offensive coaching with Clint Kubiak. Love their defensive coaching with Mike McDonald. They don't have roster holes. JSN is maybe the most consistent receiver in the NFL this year. Sam Darnold is stringing together back-to-back awesome seasons, somewhat quietly still. I don't even know how at this point, but they're just good. I mean, and I think it's going to make these playoff games coming up in January here really exciting because those wild card teams kind of just as good as the teams above them. And I'm interested to see what the line will be on some of those games.
What conference? The wild card round in the NFC is going to be a bloodbath, and in the best way possible. Like, you're just going to get some awesome matchups. And think of some of the matchups that you would have right now between, like, would be the Eagles and the Packers playing in round 1. How much fun would that be? I mean, if you get Tampa Bay and maybe Seattle, that'd be a great matchup. Should be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that I can see literally any of those games going any direction. Even the 49ers, who have bounced back this year, if they can hold on to one of those spots, which they're definitely in pole position with a 9-4 record right now. We talked about that roster being one of the most talented league. Obviously, it's not the same as it was a few years back, but it's just a strong conference overall. Marcus, let's move back to the AFC and talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. What has happened to this team? Now, I will preface with this. I don't think the Chiefs are nearly as bad as their 6-6 record would indicate. They could have won that Dallas game, and we said this about the Chiefs a lot this year. Could have beaten the Eagles early in the season. Could have beaten Dallas on Thanksgiving. Like, they had a lot of these coulda, woulda, shoulda type games. Patrick Mahomes, all of a sudden now, quietly, and I don't even know how we're overlooking this guy, future Hall of Famer, but right now in the NFL, number 1 in EPA per play among all quarterbacks, number 2 in QBR. He has quietly risen his game back to an elite level again. And I think it's kind of just getting overshadowed because they're still not putting up points consistently. The overall roster talent of the Chiefs isn't what it used to be. What do you make of the Chiefs' current situation? And do you think that they can do well enough down the stretch and it's going to take a flawless finish for them to sneak into the playoffs?
I don't see them making the playoffs. They need to win out in order to make the playoffs. They're not getting in at 10-7 because they don't hold a tiebreaker against the Bills, the Jags,
Mm.
or so yeah, it's the Bills, the Jaguars. We'll see about the Texans. They don't have one currently against the Chargers, and they play a pretty tough schedule. They play the Texans this week, and then it's the Chargers, the Titans, which is an easier game. Then it's the Broncos on Christmas Day, the Raiders to finish out the season. I think they probably get to 10 wins. Maybe they only get to 9, but this is a team that has had trouble closing out games. And this is why we look at these one score game statistics. And, more often than not, teams regress to the mean. I mean, Kansas City had unbelievable luck winning all of these one score games last year. This year, you're just not doing that.
Mm.
They get to, like against Dallas, they had 3 third downs. They just needed to get one stop in order to get a chance to tie that game or to win it, and they couldn't get off the field. Pickens had 2 third down conversions. CeeDee Lamb had 1. When you play in a lot of these games, there's some randomness to it, and I think the Chiefs are just on the bad side of that randomness right now. It's also just not a team that's has a particular strength. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is playing better now. Didn't play particularly well at the beginning of the season. The defense was awesome to start the year. They're not playing
Mm.
fantastic football now, and that's how you end up with a 6-6 team that, honestly, if they made the playoffs, would probably be favored in every game they played.
Marcus, I think the Chiefs need to have a philosophy shift in some ways. I think their offense is too conservative. You've had one of the most creative quarterbacks in the history of the league, in my opinion. Now, your receivers aren't what they used to be with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce's up there in age, not the same player he was a few years ago. But you got to let Patrick Mahomes create. You got to let him throw down the field. If you're not using him outside of structure, like he can be the best quarterback in the league in that situation, it's limiting your offense, and your defense is no longer the defense we've seen over the past 2 years. It's not good enough to overcome that. I think the philosophy from Andy Reid needs to shift back the other direction.
The issue that they're having is that they don't have the offensive line or the weapons to be like a high flying offense, right? I don't think they can
Mm.
consistently score 30 points a game. So I think Andy Reid has made a calculated decision to try to play more ball control. And that's what they did against the Colts. They had 3 possessions in the first half, and I think all of them were 12 play drives where they're
Yeah.
trying to limit the number of times the defense is on the field. And again, I think that's a smart strategy, but you end up playing in a lot of close games. Now they were able to pull it off last week against the Colts when they were down 20-9 in the fourth quarter, but more often than not, they haven't been able to win those type of games. So they're kind of stuck right now, and this is a roster that's in transition. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, and I'm very curious to see what Brett Veach and Andy Reid do this offseason to try to get the Chiefs back to being a Super Bowl caliber contender.
Yeah, and I want to look at their schedule one more time here. The Houston Texans this week, that could be the final nail in the coffin already. You dropped to 6-7. That's all she wrote. And the Texans are a good football team right now, or at least a surging team. They're on a win streak. They've got the best defense in the league. That's really tough. And I look at the
It's a
next couple of
terrible
games.
matchup for them. It's an
It's
awful
it's a
matchup
bad
because
matchup because I don't know if they're gonna be able to protect.
no, and I would have been concerned about their ability to protect even if they were fully healthy on the offensive line. But
Mhm.
Josh Simmons, their left tackle, he had wrist surgery. He's out for this game. Jaywan Taylor, the right tackle, he has an elbow injury. He's likely out for this game. Trey Smith, their Pro Bowl guard, he's out for this game as well. And that's bad
Yeah.
news
Oh,
for
you talk
Patrick
about a
Mahomes and
bad
this offense.
time to
Yeah.
catch the Texans pass rush is this week right now. And even if you escape that game, Marcus, you get the Chargers the following week. And we know how those divisional games can go. We know the Chargers played them tough before. And then you get the Broncos two
Yep.
weeks later. The 10-2 Broncos. I think it's a incredibly daunting path here. And I'm with you. I don't think that there is a good enough avenue for the Chiefs to make the playoffs this year. It pains me to say that because I enjoy watching them in the postseason. Don't think it's going to happen this year.
Nope. They're just not good enough. I mean, I know everybody thinks they're going to make it because it's Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, but this happens. This happened to Tom Brady.
Mhm.
I believe it was his second year starting. They went 9-7, couldn't get it done.
Marcus, let's talk about two of the teams that we briefly brushed on here in the AFC who are on the outside looking in the playoff race. Teams that have struggled at times this season. That's the Houston Texans and the Cincinnati Bengals, who, my goodness, you talk about a long shot. They sit at 4-8 right now. Hypothetically, though, there is a scenario where the Bengals, because of how weak that AFC North is, and they're only 2 games back, if they can, they don't even have to win out. I mean, if they do enough, get to there's a scenario, Marcus. I think that conference or that division could be won at 8-9. It's probably going to be a 9-8 team that comes away with it. But they don't necessarily have to win out. So Bengals, Texans, Bengals have Joe Burrow back now. They looked pretty good, albeit small sample. We know that offense can be lethal. The defense is still the defense, though. It's still that same defense we've seen in the past couple of years. Or the Texans, who've got CJ Stroud back now, number 1 defense in the league. Which team is more threatening here if they're to sneak into the postseason?
It's Houston, and it's for the reason that they have a dominating defense, and they have an offense that I think, while they're very spotty, can score 20 points, but the defense is going to keep them in all of these games. And you look at all the other playoff opponents, and Houston can really match up with these offenses. They've already beaten Buffalo. They beat the Colts. They beat the Jaguars. Like, they can hang in these games. We'll see how they match up against the Chiefs, but Houston is a team that I would not want to play in the playoffs because they've got a shutdown. I mean, there's not very many shutdown corners, but they've got a shutdown corner and Derek Stingley who could follow your number 1 receiver, maybe the best edge duo in the league with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. And the offensive line is starting to play better. And that's the big thing here. Real quick on the Bengals, though. Burrow is playing really well. They beat the Ravens last week without T. Higgins. Getting T. Higgins back will be a big thing. Trey Hendrickson not going to be back this week. We'll see when he returns. But I actually think the Bengals should have better odds to make the postseason than the Chiefs because their path is just so much easier, Tommy. Like, there is a very realistic scenario where all the Bengals have to do is win 4 of their next 5 games. So you could even drop a game. But if they beat Baltimore, let's say they lose to Buffalo, they finish out the season beating some pretty bad opponents. Pittsburgh loses both games to Baltimore, very realistic. They lose to Detroit, but they beat Miami and Cleveland. And the Ravens end up losing to the Packers and the Patriots. There you go. That's how the Bengals get in the postseason. It's not all that hard to envision because the Bengals and the Steelers aren't very good. I wouldn't be afraid of the Bengals because I still think that defense is abominable. Is that even a word? Awful. Whatever word you can use to describe the defense is probably true. That's how bad that unit is.
And who would have thought we would have been talking about the AFC North like that, entering week 14, that a 4-8 Bengals team would still have a chance to win that division. It's crazy. I'm with you 100%. Houston Texans, number 1 in scoring defense, number 1 in total defense, number 2 in DVOA, number 1 in EPA. Like, that is the defense of the NFL right now. So if they can protect, if their offensive line can protect, if CJ Stroud can look more like rookie season CJ Stroud, they can be threatening and they can go places in the AFC. Anytime you've got a good defense, you can do that. And so assuming they can get enough protection and Stroud can kind of go back to being the quarterback he used to be, I don't see any reason why they couldn't make waves in the AFC this year. So definitely more threatening than the Bengals if they were to get in. Marcus, let's talk about the Lions for a second here. At 7-5, and they're sitting outside of the wild card seed right now. Are they going to make the playoffs? I mean, this is a team that was in contention the last couple of years, last 3 years, really, of being maybe the best overall team in the NFC, up there with the Eagles. All of a sudden, they don't look like the same team anymore. I think you tweeted out Matt LaFleur is coaching circles around Dan Campbell. They don't have Ben Johnson anymore. How much has that impacted them? And do you see them fighting back? Because right now, you got a lot of ground to make up. You are 2 games back of your division lead, and then there's the tiebreakers that come into play after that. And you're 2 games back of even a wild card spot right now.
I don't see them making it. It's the same problem. We're going to talk about Dallas in a little bit, but it's the same problem that Dallas has where you're 2 games back, but you're really 3 games back of some of these teams, which means the Lions need to win out. And you look at their schedule. They play the Cowboys this week. We'll see about that one. Then they play at the Rams in week 15. And then it's a home game against Pittsburgh, at Minnesota, at Chicago. Do I think they can win every one of those games individually? Absolutely. Do I think they're going to win all of those games? No, I don't. So that way, and then you're stuck probably as the 8th seed in the NFC, and that's just a really bad spot to be in. They've had some really bad luck this year in terms of offensive linemen getting injured. Their interior offensive line has really gotten old pretty quickly. Frank Ragnow retired, unretired, and then retired again. Amon-Ra St. Brown dealing with an ankle injury. Sam Laporta is out for the year with a back injury. They've had a ton of injuries in their secondary. On top of having a new offensive coordinator and a new defensive coordinator, they've lost some close games. But in the NFC, you can't afford to lose close games. So no, I wouldn't be surprised if they look pretty good here in the next couple of weeks. But I don't think this is a playoff team.
I don't think so either. I think that they can get to 10 wins, and 10 wins is not going to be good enough in the NFC the way it is right now. Cowboys are hot. They got the Rams in LA the week after that. And then you finish the season at Chicago, who is the top seed in the conference right now.
And it wouldn't be surprising, Tommy, if that Bears game, the Bears are, they need to win that game to either, lock up the number 1 seed, lock up the division, or try to beat the 5 seed. Like, it's pretty likely that game is going to mean something for Chicago, which means it's not going to be a layup for Detroit.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that. You're tuning into Stacking the Box, the No Huddle show where fans come to talk, celebrate, and debate. For more coverage, hit up fansided.com, powered by the passionate fans at Fansided. Marcus, let's talk about your Dallas Cowboys, a team that we were writing off early in the season. Their defense looked abysmal. And all of a sudden, give Jerry Jones some credit. Give him a little bit of credit. I know we come down really hard on that guy. He's got his hands in every basket, playing moves with the front office. You talk about wanting to fix the run game and then going out and getting 2 high-profile defensive tackles in Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, made a huge boost. George Pickens trade obviously has paid dividends for Dallas already. This team can be scary. I think if they get into the playoffs, you're averaging over 29 points a game and you've got the number 1 yardage offense in the NFL, you can make some things happen. And so where are you with your Dallas Cowboys right now? Are they a sleeper playoff team? Can they get in there?
So let's start with this. Jerry Jones made a really bad trade with the Micah Parsons, trading him to Green Bay for 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark. It wasn't enough. They should have done it right before the season. But one of the reasons why they did the trade is because they wanted some flexibility. They didn't think that having a expensive core of Dak, CD, and Micah with everything else on that defense was going to be good enough. And they're right. They were a projected 6.5 win team, right? But with those picks and with that cap space, they were able to go out and get Quinnen Williams. They believe that they can re-sign George Pickens. And now you've got a team that is much more dangerous, despite maybe trading away the second best defensive player in the league. Do I think they could be if they got into the playoffs, I do think they could be a team that could be dangerous because they have this great offense. They can stop the run. Quinnen Williams has generated the most pressures among any defensive tackle since joining Dallas. They've got depth in the defensive line. The offensive line starting to play really well, but they're just too far behind, Tommy, to make it. Their odds going into Friday, they had about a 35% chance of actually making the playoffs, which is way up compared to what they were a week and a half ago. But with the Eagles losing, with the 49ers winning, with the Packers winning, with the Seahawks winning, those odds have dropped all the way down to 23%. Dallas would have to win out just to have a chance of making the playoffs. And while their schedule isn't all that hard, there's just a scenario where we get 3 teams, our 3 wildcard teams all have 11 wins. And Dallas would have to go 11, 5, and 1. That just seems like too tall of a task right now.
If they win out and they make it into the playoffs, I think they could be a potentially scary team. And I don't think that I don't know. I want to say hard because you talking about winning 5 straight games is never easy, but you're playing the Lions this week. And that's obviously an enormous game for Dallas. If they get past that game in Detroit, then you've got just a train wreck of a Vikings team with their quarterback situation right now. The Chargers, who have been up and down, and they could give the Dallas trouble, but then you get the Commanders, and the Giants to close out the season, I think there's a chance, Marcus, that they finish with that 5-0 record, and they maybe they do enough. Maybe it is enough to get them into the postseason. What I will say, if Dallas makes it there, they've got a top 2 quarterback in the conference. They've got the number 1 receiving tandem in the NFL, maybe right now. Their offensive line is pass protecting. Their running game is better than expected. Their defensive line's playing all of a sudden because you've got a lot more talent there. I think that there's a chance that they could be a legitimate contender this year, but it's all going to depend on what happens these next few weeks. You drop a game and that might be it for them.
So let's assume the Bears win the division, right? And the three wild card teams would be right now the Seahawks, who are 9-3, the 49ers who are 9-4, and the Packers, who are 8-3-1. You would need one of those teams to lose 3 games, probably the rest of the way. And you just start going through the schedule. Like there's just no way. I don't love this 49ers team from a talent, standpoint. But Tommy, look at their schedule. They play like the Titans this week, Colts, Bears, Seahawks. I mean, it's not super easy, but they finish up the season. I mean, they've already got 9 wins. They're going to get 2 of those. The Cowboys just turned it on a little too late, but it's fun to at least watch them play competitive football again.
And that might be the case, Marcus. It would be discouraging to see them finish like 10-6-1 as a red hot team that could make a splash and then need things to go their way. Like I can totally see that happening. Like week 18 of the season, you need like a collection of games to go their way, and then just having not the chips fall the way they need them to. That'd be disappointing, but I think it's an encouraging outlook overall for Dallas fans, regardless. Marcus, let's talk about the Steelers and the Ravens. Oh man, this division, it's not what we thought it would be. The Ravens lead with a 6-6 record. Steelers also tied at 6-6 in second place in the AFC North, going down into the home stretch now. Baltimore's just been such a weird team this year. They lost Lamar Jackson for a little while. Their offense was really good at the beginning of the season. The defense is terrible. It's kind of flipped the script recently. Their defense has been respectable and their offense can't move the football. And so they're just a weird football team right now. The Steelers aren't really good anywhere, quite frankly. I mean, we're talking about a team with a negative point differential. They don't have an identity. They can't stop the run. They can't run the ball. They certainly can't pass the ball. It's not a good division. And then when you look at the teams that they play, I mean, honestly, we've talked about this a few times. They play each other twice. And that's really what it's going to come down to. They both are coming off of a loss this past week too. So first of all, I want to ask you, is the winner of the AFC North, are they going to have a 500 record or worse? I mean, it makes you.
I think the winner will get to 9-8, but there's absolutely a chance that they get to 8-9. And that's, if Pittsburgh were to win both matchups, but lose their other games, I could see that. Baltimore's got a very difficult schedule the rest of the way, including games against Joe Burrow, Drake Maye, Jordan Love. It's just it's a bad division, Tommy. But I think the part that, like, let's say the national media hasn't been able to understand is why these teams are bad. And I think it's because there's so many players that have like big names. And this generally happens. Like the national media is usually a year or two slow to react. Like if you were playing like Madden 2023, these teams would look awesome, right? Derrick Henry, Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson. But for the most part, none of those guys are playing up to the status that we're used to holding them to. I mean, go across the board. TJ Watt, not playing the same. Roquan Smith has taken a step back. Marlon Humphrey has taken a step back. Mark Andrews has taken a step back. I think both of these teams got old really quickly, and that's how you get to 6-6 teams.
You talk about it. I mean, there's no division in football that has taken a step back as fast as this one. What were we talking about them 2 years ago as potentially the best division in football? Lamar Jackson was an MVP. Joe Burrow was at least an MVP candidate. Obviously had issues staying healthy. That's been the case his whole career. But I mean, even Burrow is coming off a season where he had 49 touchdowns, 9 picks, one of the top leaders in passing yards per attempt. Was really good last year. And they got hot right down the stretch of the season, fell just short of the playoffs at 9-8. I thought going into the year, potentially we could have seen a division again that had 3 teams with a winning record and multiple teams with 10 plus wins. That certainly is not going to be the case this year. We'll be lucky if we get one team with a winning record at this point. So it is, I mean, in my mind, it is Steelers or Ravens. I still think the Bengals are too big of a long shot to make that comeback, especially considering how their defense is performing right now. And I think that they each have two difficult games down the stretch. Again, it's going to come down to how those teams play against each other. Which one, Marcus, let me ask you, is more threatening? And I already know the answer to this, but I'll let you answer and I'll back clean up here. Which team is more threatening if they were to make the postseason this year? Can you see either of them getting past the wild card or the divisional round even?
Yeah, I could see either of these teams winning a playoff game because, I mean, they're going to be the 4 seed. Like we can both acknowledge whoever wins this division is going to be the 4 seed. And I just don't think like the Colts are particularly scary if they have to play on the road in bad weather. I don't think like Jacksonville, if they're the 5 seed, is all that scary. The Chargers, yes, Pittsburgh lost to the Chargers in LA, but LA is a much different team on the road in bad weather without a good offensive line. So I do think they could win a game. But to answer your question, it's Baltimore just because it's still Lamar Jackson, in his late 20s. They have more talent on offense. They've got more pass catchers. The defense, I don't feel great about because they can't rush the passer without blitzing. But it's at least the Ravens because they do have a quarterback that if he gets hot, can win any game. Whereas for Pittsburgh, it's going to have to be like Mike Tomlin specials over and over where you're forcing 4 or 5 turnovers to win a game. And it's just too hard to repeat that in the playoffs.
I would tend to agree there. All right. From the highs, the heartbreaks, every headline, this is Stacking the Box, the No Huddle Show, your source for NFL talk, powered by fansided.com and the voices at Fansided. All right, Marcus, let's talk now about the NFC South, another division that's kind of been stuck in that perennial state of just not being overly good. I mean, we've seen a couple good Tampa Bay teams in recent years. The Panthers making a little bit of a surge here. Is Dave Canales a good head coach? I don't know what their situation is. Is Bryce Young kind of coming back to form here a little bit? They've got a couple 40-point games, but very inconsistent product overall still. The Saints are bad. Like, what do you make of this division overall?
Yeah, Carolina is making it interesting because Bryce Young has these massive games that, he goes toe to toe with Matt Stafford and actually outperforms him. Then he's got the awful game against the 49ers. So I think this is going to be Tampa Bay's division. I wouldn't be surprised though. Carolina plays Tampa Bay really tough, but I want to ask you about the other South division because right now we've got the Colts, the Jaguars, and the Texans, who are all playing pretty good football. The Texans are 6-6. We've covered them. The Colts were at one point, I mean, it seemed like a shoo-in that they were going to be the number 1 or number 2 seed. Now they're not even winning the division. Jacksonville's 9-3 right now. Actually, Jacksonville was one of the teams that we said to take the over this year when it came to their win total. Who do you think ends up winning this division?
Yeah, here I am going off on the NFC South, and I'm like, I don't know. Is this really worth talking about right
now?
No,
it's the AFC South. Well, both of them are close.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's true. So NFC South, I think it's going to be Tampa Bay. But in the AFC South, it's suddenly a crowded division. And this is, again, they're kind of like the NFC South because they've been a division that's not performed very well over the last, it's been a while now, I would say. The Titans obviously out of it. They are officially eliminated at 1-11. Who would have guessed that? But the other 3 teams, they are really tight right there. Texans at 7-5, Colts at 8-4, Jacksonville at 8-4. If you would have asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said Colts are going to run away with this thing. They were in pole position. They were red hot, leading the team in a lot of important metrics, point differential, DVOA. Their offense was really good. Best run game in the league. All of a sudden, they've come back down to earth, and it's Jacksonville who's taken position as the number 1 seed in that division. It's hard for me to say how this is going to play out because we've seen such a dramatic change over the last several weeks here. And a Texans team that had a losing record for the first half of the year is suddenly sitting at 7-5. They're only a game back from that division. Marcus, what do the rest of their schedules look like? And maybe that would be kind of the determining factor here to separate one of these three from the pack?
So, well, what's funny is Houston has the easiest schedule the rest of the way. They play at Kansas City this week on Sunday Night Football.
Mhm.
You win that game, it's very easy to see them, winning out and getting to 11-6. They play the Cardinals at home, they play the Raiders at home, they play the Chargers on the road, and I worry about Justin Herbert's health in that game against Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter. And then they finish the season up against the Colts in Houston, a very manageable schedule. You go over to the Colts, Tommy, and you start to wonder, like, are they even going to win a game? I know some Colts fans are wondering if they're even going to make the postseason. Listen to this schedule: at Jacksonville, at Seattle, home against the 49ers, home against the Jaguars, at the Texans. There are no gimme games in that schedule at all.
That's
Like,
rough.
and if Daniel Jones is as hurt as it looks like he is, he's got a fractured leg right now that he's playing on. You might only win one more game. Jacksonville's schedule is a little easier. They play the Colts, the Jets, the Broncos, the Colts, the Titans. Not an easy schedule by any means, but this just feels like, to me, Tommy, a division that probably won't be decided until week 18.
Yeah, you talk about a Colts team that started the season off winning 7 of their first 8 games. They've since lost 3 of their last 4, and against pretty good teams. And that is a brutal schedule coming up.
Who would you pick? Who would you pick to win that division right now?
I don't trust Jacksonville. That's the thing. I think that in my mind, like the way that Houston has been playing, even though they're a game back with the league's best defense, with CJ Stroud now back, and we'll see what he can do, I would go with the Texans. I think I want to go with the Texans. I just don't trust Jacksonville to close out like they need to down the stretch. The Texans are on a 4-game winning streak. And outside of that Chiefs game, they've got a pretty manageable schedule. Home against the Cardinals, home against the Raiders. Those should be wins. And then you got 2 tough games at LA Chargers and then home against the Colts. And so we'll see if they can take care of business.
Can I make the argument for Jacksonville right now? Because if you look at they're 8-4. I misspoke. They're not 9-4. They're 8-4.
Mm-hmm.
Here's their losses. They lost to Joe Burrow and the Bengals in week 1 in a game that they had the lead late, and the Bengals won on the last drive of the game. They lost to the Seahawks at home in a low-scoring game. Seattle's a really good team. Nothing to take away from there. They lost to the Rams. I believe that game was in London. And then their other loss was against Houston. So it's not like they've got bad losses on their schedule. They have some nice wins, including over the Chargers, who they beat the Chargers by 29 points. They beat the Chiefs in a really fun game that you and I actually watched together. They beat the 49ers earlier this year. I get it. This Jacksonville team is not overly exciting, and I think the injury to Travis Hunter really took some of the juice out of this team, but they've won a lot of games without Brian Thomas Jr., who's now back in the lineup from his ankle injury. They've had a lot of injuries on the defensive line, including to Eric Armstead and Trayvon Walker. Both those guys are expected to be back for the stretch run. They play really good defense. I got a coach that we like a lot. They're not exciting, but man, they play good football.
No doubt. I think that those 2 games remaining against the Colts mean way more for the Colts than they do for the Jaguars, because Jacksonville has an easier remaining schedule. But I think that could be what it comes down to here as well. I like the case that you just laid out, though. They could finally get there, and we'll see what happens. But definitely a close division, too close to call. Like I would just stay away from it if I was a bettor right now. I don't know what to do. Like we're both baffled, and we do this full time. So I'm very interested to see the last month of the season, how this thing plays out here. This is Stacking the Box, your source for football content. Marcus, I want to talk about Drake Maye here for a second. We talked about him early in the show, as well as the 11-2 New England Patriots own the league's best record right now. Man, Drake Maye has been so good. He has been so good this year. And I loved Drake Maye coming out of North Carolina. I thought he's one of my favorite quarterback prospects to come out in years. Even I didn't think he would be this good this early on, though, because last year we watched him. I mean, he certainly showed flashes, didn't put it all together, and didn't necessarily have a great roster around him. And I think that he has just elevated all the players around him at this point. Obviously, credit Mike Vrabel as well for what he's done with the organization. But Drake Maye has been so good, pushing the ball down the field, extending plays. My highest of high-end comparisons, Marcus, for him was I said he reminded me of, but I hate even throwing some of these names out there. He reminded me of kind of a cross between a Justin Herbert and even a little bit of Josh Allen, though not nearly the same level of play extension ability. Nobody has that. But is he really that good? And is he the guy that can take the Patriots to the Super Bowl already?
I mean, yeah, he's really that good. And I think he's going to win the NFL MVP. We should mention the MVP award is more of a narrative-based award than anything else because, like Matt Stafford's, I think he's got like 8 more touchdowns. He's got fewer interceptions, but everybody expected Matt Stafford to be good with Sean McVay and Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. I think for Drake Maye, with this team is 11-2 right now. He's completing 71% of his passes. I don't think anybody saw that coming. I think we all expected him to take a leap, but Tommy, here's what I would say: more often than not, the really great quarterbacks, like the special quarterbacks, they end up reaching the Super Bowl a lot faster than we ever anticipate. Like a great example is Patrick Mahomes in his first year starting took the Chiefs to the AFC Championship game. And if it wasn't for a D4 penalty, they're in that game, right? In his second year starting, they win the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow's second year starting in the NFL. First year was a torn ACL. Second year, he takes the Bengals to the Super Bowl. These guys kind of just figured out ways to get it done really early. And I think with this Patriots team, which is incredibly flawed, but they're navigating through their schedule, a pretty easy schedule. I just think that the Patriots are going to get into these games in the postseason, and they're going to feel like they have the better quarterback in every single matchup, whether that's the case or not. And honestly, it might be, depending on what happens to like Buffalo and some of these other teams. You get a quarterback that's hot, playing well, playing with confidence at home. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Marcus, when you draft a quarterback, sometimes you just know. And I think even as during his rookie season, you could tell this was the guy. And if we needed any more confirmation, certainly have it now. I mean, he is going to be putting the NFL on notice. I mean, he's going to be here for a long time as this next great AFC quarterback. And we can talk about the AFC rosters. We can talk about how the conference is falling apart. One thing you can't fault the AFC for, they know how to draft quarterbacks overall. Not my team, unfortunately, but most of the teams in the AFC know how to draft quarterbacks, and they have a lot of good ones over there. He's going to be that next guy. He's going to be that second coming of Justin Herbert because he already looks the part, and maybe even then some. Who knows? Like, I think that the sky is the limit for him. I think he's only scratching the surface. So to answer the question, can he get the Patriots to the Super Bowl this year? Yeah, he can. For 2 reasons. He's that good, and the AFC is not that good. And so considering it, let's say they continue on this track. I mean, you've got a game against the Bills, at the Ravens, then you clean up, hopefully, in their case, against the Jets and the Dolphins to close out the season. If you get that first round bye, and you're talking about beating 2 potentially just above average AFC teams, and you're in the Super Bowl already. And Drake Maye has taken care of business all season long. I don't see any reason why he couldn't still do that, Marcus.
It wouldn't be surprising if their path to the Super Bowl was like playing Jacksonville at home, and then you play Denver at home. And it's like, oh, great, Trevor Lawrence and Bo Nix. That's all we have to do to get to the Super Bowl. Don't be surprised if New England has stupid Patriots get back to the Super Bowl.
Oh, it's frustrating. I'm telling you, it is frustrating. But considering that Patrick Mahomes is probably not going to be there, maybe the only quarterback that would be better going toe-to-toe would be Josh Allen, and that's if you even get that matchup. And so we'll see how it plays out. All right, this is the Stacking the Box show. We premiere on Tuesday evenings. Be sure to check it out on YouTube. You can follow Marcus on X at Marcus_Moser. You can follow me on X at Tommy Jaggi. You can download the Stacking the Box podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Also check us out on YouTube. You can follow my written content on stillcurtain.com. Marcus's written content on the Fansided NFL Network. Be sure to check out fansided.com for all your daily sports news and opinions. And thanks again for listening to the Stacking the Box No Huddle show.